Purposely. Your life, God's purpose. Listen at purposely.com.
Have you ever laughed at the wrong moment? Like when things were too serious or awkward or sad? That is definitely something I would do. Hey, this is Jen. You're listening to the Bible for Busy People podcast, and I'm freely admitting that sometimes I get the wrong instinct at the wrong moment, and I want to laugh, like when something is really sad or when things are awkward or in the middle of a very serious sermon. Sometimes it happens. I just get uncomfortable and I'll make a faux pas. And it almost seems like in this story about the death of Jesus's friend Lazarus, it almost seems like he makes several faux pas here. But it's interesting. What he actually is doing is saying something incredibly significant for us. And it goes along with Jesus's I am statements in the book of John, which is what we're talking about this week. So today we're in John 11, starting in verse 17. It says, "On his arrival, Jesus found that Lazarus had already been in the tomb for 4 days. Now Bethany was less than 2 miles from Jerusalem, and many Jews had come to Martha and Mary to comfort them in the loss of their brother. When Martha heard that Jesus was coming, she went out to meet him, but Mary stayed at home. 'Lord,' Martha said to Jesus, 'if you had been here, my brother would not have died. But I know that even now God will give you whatever you ask.' Jesus said to her, 'Your brother will rise again.' Martha answered, 'I know he will rise again in the resurrection at the last day.' Jesus said to her, 'I am the resurrection and the life. The one who believes in me will live even though they die, and whoever lives by believing in me will never die. Do you believe this?' 'Yes, Lord,' she replied. 'I believe that you are the Messiah, the Son of God, who is to come into the world.' After she had said this, she went back and called her sister Mary aside. 'The teacher is here,' she said, 'and is asking for you.' When Mary heard this, she got up quickly and went to him. Now Jesus had not yet entered the village, but was still at the place where Martha had met him. When the Jews who had been with Mary in the house comforting her noticed how quickly she got up and went out, they followed her, supposing she was going to the tomb to mourn there. When Mary reached the place where Jesus was and saw him, she fell at his feet and said, 'Lord, if you had been here, my brother would not have died.' When Jesus saw her weeping and the Jews who had come along with her also weeping, he was deeply moved in spirit and troubled. 'Where have you laid him?' he asked. 'Come and see, Lord,' they replied. Jesus wept. Then the Jews said, 'See how he loved him?' But some of them said, 'Could not he who opened the eyes of the blind man have kept this man from dying?' We just talked about the blind man the other day. So Jesus arrives late. That's the first kind of faux pas moment, which actually is not, in fact, a faux pas. Everything Jesus did was precise and planned. But to an outside person, this would have looked like, really? Like, you arrived late for the death of your friend when you could have possibly saved him, like they talk about at the end of the passage? It just doesn't seem right. And also the comfort he offers doesn't seem very comforting. Honestly, if you were or I were saying it, we would almost sound too religious, like some kind of typical, like, basic religious answer, like, well, everything happens for a reason, or God has a plan. I'm not shaming you if you have said these things, by the way. I have absolutely said them as well, because we're trying to make sense of a really difficult circumstance, and sometimes there is no sense to be made of it. Sometimes it's hard to read stories in the Bible and let yourself forget how that it all works out. This is one of the most famous passages in the Bible, and even people who aren't as familiar with Christianity will probably know about the Lazarus effect. So we know what Jesus will do, and Jesus knew what Jesus was going to do. He was going to raise Lazarus from the dead, but Martha did not know what Jesus was going to do. We have to suspend that reality for a minute. Martha just did not know what Jesus was going to do. She thought her brother was dead. She knows who Jesus is and that he can be trusted, and she realizes that Jesus is the Son of God, and she's one of few people who actually says that in the Bible. I found out from the Enduring Word commentary that it's actually a Jewish superstition that the soul stays near the body, and that they believed that it was possible for the body to be resuscitated in 3 days. So Jesus being 4 days late meant that there was just absolutely no hope. And I can imagine just how deep that sorrow was, that they had even possibly waited in this hopeful anticipation of maybe Jesus will come within the 3 days and something will happen. But Jesus stayed away long enough for there to just be no hope for them. So they thought. Martha is clearly disappointed in Jesus, but she still believes. And something significant she says here is even now. And one of the studies that I was reading, I believe it was the Enduring Word commentary that's linked in the show notes, said, think about this concept of even now. How can you say even now with whatever you have been through or whatever you're going through? How can you say even now I still believe? And that's a question that is on my heart today. Now, Jesus didn't bring the resurrection and the life. He didn't bring it along with him. He was the resurrection and the life. Martha could find comfort in the fact that the resurrection and the life was right there with her. And I think that was the comfort that Jesus offered as much as possible in the moment before Martha knew that Jesus was going to raise her brother from the dead. That was the comfort he offered, was being the resurrection and the life and being there with her. We know that death wasn't the end for Lazarus, but Jesus gave Martha real hope and comfort in that moment. And I think something about that stands out to me is that Jesus doesn't have to prove anything to us. And we also don't have to demonstrate our understanding to him. Jesus is, and we believe. Something else significant that happens here is that Jesus weeps. He cried with Martha and with Mary and with all the people who were mourning Lazarus. Even though he knew what he was going to do, he was going to raise Lazarus from the dead. But he doesn't stop them from mourning, and he mourns himself. He cries with us. He doesn't rush past our emotion or our grief or our devastation. Jesus allows the process to happen. So I have a question for you to end out today, and it's just as Jesus met Martha and met Mary right where they were at. What's a situation where you were met by God, right where you needed to be met? Before the story found its conclusion, before all your questions were answered, or maybe they never were, what is a situation where you were met by God, right where you needed to be met? That's all for today, and we are going to talk again tomorrow about another of the I am statements.
Thank you for listening to The Bible for Busy People. If you need prayer or want to go deeper in your faith, visit our show notes. Will you take a moment to share with a friend and leave a review? It helps the Bible get into even more people's minds and hearts. Find more podcasts that will recharge you at purposely.com.
Thanks for listening. We just wanted to take a minute to let you know that just like you and your family, Purposely is also part of a family, the Krista Family of Ministries. Krista helps kids and teens learn and grow in their faith at King Schools and Miracle Ranch Camp. And Krista shares Jesus with people in the poorest, most remote places through World Concern. Krista Senior Living is a community of love and care, and Krista Media is a place of hope on the radio. God is changing lives through these 5 ministries, and Krista is on mission to share the good news of Jesus. To learn more, visit Krista.org.